You ever get the sinking sense that you are sleepwalking through the end times and what we are watching play out is simply God's design in Revelation? Perhaps AI is the Antichrist, and the war that we are witnessing right now raging in the Mideast, well, it was just bound to happen, and there's nothing anybody could do about it. You hate to have been part of it, but nonetheless, God's plan is going to be God's plan as you watch rockets rain down on Jerusalem, some of the holiest sites in all of Christendom and Islam and Judaism. You sort of get that sense that you can't stop what's coming, and what's coming is going to be Revelation itself. And now we've seen explosions on the Temple Mount. Iranian missile lands a few hundred meters from Jerusalem's Old City Western Wall. The Dome on the Rock Mosque and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, you can see here, if you've ever been to Jerusalem, the scaffolding that carries up to the Temple Mount that surrounds this location. Of course, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, one of the most holy places in all of Christendom. Air raid sirens and evacuations as pilgrims are sheltering in place inside of this holy place. Look at this. And it is what the end times looks like. Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where antiquity holds. Christ was crucified, ascended into heaven. Wild scenes. Okay, why should we care about these kind of things so much? Why does this matter? Well, the Temple Mount right here is right now a mosque. It's called the Dome on the Rock. It's a mosque that was built there after the temple was destroyed by the Romans 70 years after Christ's death. This Temple Mount, all that's left of the original Temple Mount, known as Solomon's Temple, are some really big rocks. All of the temple has been completely wiped clean, but it was a massive structure. It looked like this when it was fully built. It was the tallest building in all of antiquity. According to Jewish tradition, it housed the essence and spirit of God himself in this temple. And you can see how magisterial it is and impressive it would be even to this very day. Nonetheless, Christ preached inside of these temple courts and said that not a single stone will be left one on another. Everybody laughed at him at the time. Christ said, I am the temple. When Christ was crucified, the curtain that separated the presence of God was torn in two. And 70 years after, the destruction of the second temple happened exactly as Christ predicted it. The second temple was destroyed exactly 70 years after Christ's death. Roman forces under Titus ripped every single stone down in the siege of Jerusalem. The revolt began. The siege, Roman legions besieged Jerusalem, starting at Passover, breaching the walls after months of intense fighting, starvation, internal strife. In August, 70 years after Christ's death, a fire was set to the temple, and soldiers took the total destruction of the temple. The city was razed, the population was slaughtered or sold in slavery. The temple treasures were carried off to Rome. The loss of a central place of worship transformed Jewish life, ending sacrificial system and leading to the development of synagogues and local community worship. The loss of this, of course, is, and it continues to be, totally and completely critical to the Jewish faith. The Dome on the Rock, of course, sits there now. It's one of the world's oldest surviving Islamic architecture. Again, you can see here, this, of course, is inside of the heart of the modern state of Israel. This is the place that it holds. Anyway, why is any of this important, and why is it important that bombs are landing on the Temple Mount? Well, because of a prophecy of a third temple. Third temple refers to the hypothetical future rebuilt Jewish temple on the Temple Mount, the same site where the first temple was built. The second temple was rebuilt And then this would be the third temple. In mainstream Judaism, the rebuilding of the temple is considered a central part of the messianic prophecy and ultimate redemption. It would restore the full system of sacrifices, priestly services, and divine presence and dwelling among the people. Jewish tradition draws from biblical sources. Also, in Christendom, in Christian end times prophecy, the third temple plays a significant role, linked to the passages like Daniel and Thessalonians, where the Antichrist desecrates a third temple. In Revelation, it talks about what the temple will look like, how it will be measured. Many see the construction as a prerequisite to the end of time itself, the return of Christ, the tribulation. There's been no third temple built. The Temple Mount remains under Muslim administration. So, of course, how could there be a Jewish temple there? Well, unless it gets blown up, which is why the bombs striking the Temple Mount are very significant. If the mosque gets blown up, will it be rebuilt? Would there be, and there is, an active political and religious forces that would push to rebuild a temple like this instead of a mosque? Well, of course there would be, and there are in Christendom and in Jewish circles. There are, of course, very conflicting opinions on how this would all come about. Nobody agrees really on anything. The concept remains deeply symbolic and hopeful in Jewish prayer and thought, mentioned in daily prayers and Christian prayers, frankly, because Christians believe it will usher in the end times and the return of Christ. But it's also highly sensitive geopolitically because an attempt to alter the Temple Mount would trigger major conflict between Jews and Muslims, unlike anything we've ever seen. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you watch, here you can literally see from the walls of Jerusalem the Iranian regime launching missiles directly at Jerusalem, city of sacred billions to believers in the month of Ramadan, over the Western Wall, over the Dome on the Rock, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the most holy places in all of antiquity, right? Through to the present day. You wonder why it's always, everyone's always talking about Jerusalem and Israel? This is why. Because all of the three major religions of the planet have their nexus of holy spots there in that city. Video shows Iranian impact sites in Jerusalem. You can see the actual church there as the missiles rocket to the ground and explode. One hit right next to the Dome on the Rock. Where's the outrage? Again, if a missile hits the Dome on the Rock and it's from Iran, or perhaps it's a false flag, you don't know, I don't know. Here we have the Israel Foreign Ministry. The Iranian regime is firing missiles directly at Jerusalem, right at the Dome on the Rock Mosque. Protecting lives of worshipers, safety concerns. This is why prayer at holy sites has been temporarily suspended. So now they're suspending prayer at the holy sites. It's happening, man. It's happening. The Church of the Resurrection. It is the holiest site in Christianity. So it is wild that this is a site that's getting hit now. So you have Christianity's holiest site, Islam's holiest site, and Judaism's holiest site, all within line, all within fire. According to tradition, the church contains both the site of Christ's, where Christ was crucified, Golgotha, and the location of Jesus' empty tomb, where he was buried and resurrected. They are immensely holy sites for Christianity. And this is what it looks like. So, yeah, listen, Iran launches 42nd wave of missiles with the supreme leader's first statement. Could these missiles hit and destroy the Dome on the Rock? Yeah, it's absolutely. The thing is really not that well built in the first place, and it could, it could be obliterated by that or by a false flag attack. This is really happening. Again, keep your head on a swivel. Understand, like perhaps maybe Iran would actually target this if they were to destroy this mosque. I mean, it seems a little crazy, but like if they were to destroy this mosque, they'd be able to turn the entire Muslim world against Israel, where there's actually been some tenuous allyship there through the Abraham Accords and in this, current Iranian war. So keep an eye out for the end times. You would need to destroy this mosque in order to usher in the end times, according to Jewish and Christian tradition. The third temple being rebuilt there. Be very, very cautious, ladies and gentlemen. Know your Bible, know your scriptures, know what's up. And Sean Ryan did a recent interview with a priest talking about the third temple actually being inside of the Catholic Church. I thought it was totally fascinating, and that there won't be a third temple built here. Something critical to understand as we work through this news cycle. Again, nobody really agrees, but this is what it may actually mean. I'll end with this. Here we go.
What about the temple?
According to the fathers of the church, at least the ones that I've read, they said the temple will never be rebuilt. And
It will never be
rebuilt. And the reason being is because, first of all, Julian the Apostate tried to rebuild it, and it was destroyed in the process. Christ actually put an end to the Jewish sacrifice on purpose, because the Jewish sacrifice in the Old Testament was a lead-up or a prefigurement of Christ. And so he gave them one generation in order for them to convert to Christianity. And when they didn't, he put an end to their sacrifice. So technically speaking, there hasn't been practicing Jews in 2,000 years, because the temple hasn't been around. They haven't been able to offer sacrifice. Doesn't mean that they don't pray and things of that sort, but they haven't been able to enact their primary religious duties, which is to offer sacrifice. Plus their Levitic line, which is their priestly line, was destroyed. So, but then, and the difficulty is people tend to misinterpret the book of Daniel, which says when the abomination of desolation takes its seat in the temple. What they don't realize is that is not a reference to the Jewish temple. That's where the Protestants are getting it wrong. So a lot of the Protestants are thinking, oh, well, let's help the Jews rebuild the temple, and then that will usher in, because Christ is going to return, after they think the temple is going to be rebuilt. And then as a result of that, the temple has to be rebuilt in order for the Antichrist to put himself in there. So let's do that so that the Antichrist will come, and then that means that Christ will come, and that's kind of their reasoning behind it. Well, first of all, just getting through the years of the Antichrist is going to be brutal, so I wouldn't be pushing that. But the fathers of the church are very clear that it will never be rebuilt, and that the reference to the abomination of desolation taking its seat in the temple is actually a reference to the Catholic Church. That's what the fathers say it's a reference to. That there's going to be some way in which the situation in the church will become compromised to such a degree. It doesn't mean that people have to know it, but its essential elements will still remain intact, but that the Catholic Church itself would become compromised in that process.